Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Continue with the conversation online. We'll be sampling some of your views as the session continues at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 2. Before we continue with our conversation, let's give you a brief history of who Raila Amolo Odinga was, especially given that he served in various capacities within the government and even outside the government, being the opposition leader for a number of years. Here's the cabinet with that particular expert.
Raila Amolo Odinga was born on January 7, 1945 in Maseno, Kisumu district, to Mary Juma Odinga and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. His father served as the first vice president of Kenya under President Jomo Kenyatta. He studied in East Germany, graduating from the Technical University of Marburg with a degree of mechanical engineering before joining the University of Nairobi as a lecturer and later serving at the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Odinga's route to the cabinet and beyond began when he joined elective politics following the reintroduction of multi-party democracy in 1992. He was a central figure in the clamor for the return of multi-party politics, dubbed Kenya's second liberation. Between 1982 and 1988, Raila Odinga was jailed for treason. He was again detained in July 1990 alongside Kenneth Matiba and Charles Rubier for calling for the return of multi-party politics. After his release in June 1991, fearing for his life, he fled to Norway. In February 1992, he returned home and joined the Forum for Restoration of Democracy, led by his father Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. When Ford later split into Ford Kenya under Jaramogi and Ford Asili under Matiba, Raila became Ford Kenya's Deputy Director of Elections. That same year, he was elected Member of Parliament for Lang'ata constituency in Nairobi, a seat he would retain in subsequent elections in 1997, 2002 and 2007. In his first presidential attempt in 1997, Raila Odinga finished third after President Daniel Moi and Democratic Party candidate Mwai Kibaki. In March 2002, his National Development Party merged with KANU to form the new KANU, a union sealed when Moi appointed Raila and other NDP leaders to cabinet posts. Odinga became Minister for Energy in June 2001. However, in October 2002, he resigned, taking with him his NDP brigade and several KANU stalwarts, including Kalonzo Musyoka, Joseph Kamotho, and Saitoti. The group formed the Rainbow Movement, which later merged with Mwai Kibaki's National Alliance Party of Kenya to form the National Rainbow Coalition, NAC. In a moment, that would change Kenya's political destiny. Odinga stood before a charged crowd and declared Kibaki Tosha, endorsing Mwai Kibaki as the opposition's presidential candidate. His rallying call united the opposition and ended the era of KANU dominance. Odinga campaigned tirelessly for Kibaki, especially after a car accident left the presidential hopeful hospitalized. His efforts helped deliver a resounding victory, with Kibaki winning 67% of the total vote. A pre-election memorandum of understanding between Kibaki's NAC and Odinga's Liberal Democratic Party was said to have promised Raila the post of Prime Minister and LDP half of the cabinet positions. However, that promise was never fulfilled. The perceived betrayal led to the tensions within government, culminating in an open rift between President Kibaki and Odinga. A key point of contention was the proposed new constitution, which Odinga opposed, arguing that it consolidated presidential powers. He led the No campaign against the draft constitution in the 2005 referendum, defeating the government side with 57% of the vote. President Kibaki resigned by dissolving the cabinet on November 23, 2005. When President Kibaki reconstituted his cabinet, Raila and his LDP allies were excluded. He responded by forming the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, which became a formidable political force. By August 2007, ODM had split into two factions, Odinga leading ODM and Kalonzo Musyoka leading ODM Kenya. At ODM's National Delegates Conference in September 2007, held at the Moi International Sports Centre, Kasarani, Odinga won the presidential nomination with 2,656 votes ahead of Musalia Mudavadi and William Ruto. Mudavadi was named his running mate. The December 2007 elections ended in controversy when the Electoral Commission declared Kibaki the winner by a margin of about 232,000 votes. ODM rejected the results, sparking weeks of violence that claimed over 1,300 lives and displaced more than 250,000 people. The crisis drew international attention, and under the mediation of former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, a power-sharing deal was reached, creating a coalition government. Raila Odinga became Kenya's second Prime Minister, the first being Jomo Kenyatta. Later, his relationship with then Agriculture Minister William Ruto and other Kalenjin leaders deteriorated over the International Criminal Court investigation into the 2007-2008 post-election violence. In 2013, under Kenya's new constitution, Odinga again contested the presidency, this time under the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, uniting his ODM with Kalonzo Musyoka's Wiper and Wetangula's Ford Kenya with Kalonzo Musyoka as his running mate. His opponents, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, faced ICC charges but were nonetheless nominated by the Jubilee coalition. In the March 4, 2013 election, Kenyatta garnered 6,173,433 votes to Odinga's 5,340,546 votes. Odinga challenged the results in the Supreme Court, citing massive failures of the biometric voter registration kits. However, Chief Justice William Mutunga dismissed additional evidence filed late, and the court upheld Kenyatta's victory on March 30, 2013. Kenyatta's inauguration on 9 April 2013 marked the end of Odinga's tenure as Prime Minister. On April 27, 2017, Odinga was endorsed by the National Super Alliance to contest the presidency once more, with Musyoka again as his running mate. When the August 8, 2017 election results declared Kenyatta the winner with 54% of the vote against Odinga 43%, Odinga petitioned the Supreme Court. In a historic ruling, Chief Justice David Maraga annulled the results, citing irregularities and illegalities. However, Odinga withdrew from the repeat election scheduled for October 26th, citing lack of reforms at the IEBC. Kenyatta won the rerun, and tensions remained high as Odinga symbolically saw himself in as the people's president at Uhuru Park, an act that led to the deportation of his ally Miguna Miguna. Then came the unexpected truce. On March 9, 2018, Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta emerged from Harambee House and announced the handshake, a peace pact that redefined Kenya's political landscape. Odinga was later appointed the African Union Commission's High Representative for Infrastructure Development. His collaboration with Uhuru deepened through the Azimio la Umoja coalition, with the former president endorsing him as the coalition's presidential flag bearer in 2022. In May 2022, Odinga named Martha Karua as his running mate, the first woman ever to hold that position in a major Kenyan political alliance. Despite a spirited campaign, he lost the August 9, 2022 election to William Ruto. Subsequently, he worked with President Ruto in a broad-based government that included several of his longtime allies. In 2025, he made a bid for the chairperson of the African Union Commission. Despite strong regional support, he lost to Djibouti's Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. On Wednesday, October 15, 2025, he passed away while receiving medical treatment in India. Throughout his illustrious political career, Raila Odinga was known by many affectionate nicknames: Baba the Father, Agwambo the Act of God, Nyundo the Hammer, Tinga the Tractor, symbol of his former NDP party, and Mtu wa Vitendawili, the Man of Riddles. He leaves behind a legacy etched in Kenya's political history, one defined by resilience, sacrifice, and an unrelenting quest for justice, equality, and unity for all. He was widely regarded as a master strategist and mass mobilizer, a leader capable of drawing immense crowds to his rallies and connecting deeply with the ordinary citizen. Raila Amolo Odinga will be remembered for his unwavering fight for democratic freedoms, human rights, and political inclusion. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Now, you have seen his illustrious career over 40 years within the government as well as outside that particular administration that he even worked with on a number of occasions. Now, that will bring or culminate his journey to being conferred the Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart of Kenya, which was accorded yesterday by President William Ruto. Have a look.
As the country continues to mark the 7 days of mourning, President Ruto used the Mashujaa Day platform to honor the late ODM leader.
Observe a moment of silence in honor and celebration of his remarkable life and service to our great country, our continent, and to humanity.
A minute of silence, followed by a glowing tribute from the president and visiting dignitaries.
I pay tribute to the memory of the illustrious departed and express my deep compassion to President Ruto, to his family, and to the people of Kenya. May his soul rest in peace.
And even at this time, as we continue to mourn the departure of our former Prime Minister, one of the greatest Kenyans to ever walk on our soil, we remember many more, those who have gone before us for selflessly protecting our sovereignty, defending our dignity.
In a solemn moment, Ruto announced the posthumous conferment of a Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart to Raila Odinga.
Greatness and nobility are never achieved by settling for the ordinary or the comfortable. They are seized by those who dare to push the frontiers of possibility, by those who refuse to be confined by what is, but instead reach boldly for what could be.
The president also took aim at critics of a broad-based government, accusing them of missing the bigger picture.
When some saw the opportunity to bring down their competitors, even if it meant bringing down the country, Baba chose the stability of Kenya. For Agwambo, the specter of a failed state was too grave to contemplate.
He rallied Kenyans to unite beyond ethnic lines, calling it the truest way to honor Raila's legacy.
He tirelessly reminded leaders and citizens alike that our overarching identity is not defined by tribe, region, or creed, but by the sacred bond of being Kenyan.
In line with what he described as Raila's vision for inclusive development, Ruto pledged to reach out to more leaders in what is seen as an olive branch to Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka to forge a development-conscious coalition.
I have consulted with my former boss, the fourth president of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. I have held discussions with majority of members of parliament, and they are here. I have consulted with many governors and grassroots leaders from every corner of the nation. And I will continue to engage because Kenya's progress must never be a partisan pursuit. It is a national inclusive mission.
Will forever live in our minds and in our hearts, given that what he fought for in our country for the last 8 years, he has been on this particular soil. Also, before I cut Millie short, we wanted to talk about how the crop of leaders that we have in our country, how did they reach there? Because at the end of the day, it is us who voted for them to be there.
Yes, and I wanted to add on to what my co-panelist had stated, and just remind us that portion of the blame comes to us, the people, because I know for a fact that there have been opportunities where we have been told, eat that money that you're given, it is your money after all. Because rarely will you find that someone who has made money through private sector will come and dish it out in the name of campaigning and getting votes. So we are told that is money that likely came from public sector, so eat it, but then vote with your conscience. But when you try to have public participation, where you'll hear every Kenyan will tell you public participation, the minute they hear any bill has been passed or any action taken, the first reaction will be, was there public participation? But do we go out of our way to look for those forums for public participation? And when we do identify them, do we engage? And when we do engage, do we engage from an informed perspective? Do we even take time to be able to listen? Because you'll find that many other times when we'll be invited to a forum where there's public participation going on, and you will go there because you have been paid by a certain politician to just go and bash that thing down, or to support it, say it is good, whereas as you exit from that venue, you will not be able to say what is good about that thing that you are talking about. And you'll find that many other times you will just go with the flow, you know. At one time we were being told Baba amesoma, na amesema ni mzuri, so if Baba said so, then it is good. Now, we have reached that stage where many of us will say, well, such blogger or such and such blogger has said that this thing is negative, therefore it is negative. But what is negative about it, or how it is negative for my interests, is something that very few people can speak to. And even those few who can speak to it sometimes will be speaking from a misinformed position, whereas access to information is enshrined in the Constitution and things are made available for us. So yes, we do have a problem with the leadership, but we must also look at ourselves as the people and be able to do better. So that principle that we want to protect so much of public participation and being engaged in our governance, that we make maximum use of it.
And maybe lessons that can be drawn, Alenga. You heard from Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, the Kisumu governor, clearly stating that one of the last meetings he had with Raila Amolo Odinga in terms of entrenching, or rather doing away with ethnic balkanization, not just within the ODM structures, but across the country, in terms of realizing the end of tribalism. Is it something that can be drawn out or learned from the current generation that we have, that were saying last year to this year, they are leaderless, they are tribeless?
I think one of the biggest things that you identify when you try to analyze Raila's history is that he was a huge victim of tribalism. There are people who stopped him from being president just simply because he was not one of their own. And I think that thing became a huge stumbling block for Kenya to realize a lot of economic progress, the development of our nationalistic values, because the tribalism has become so deeply entrenched in everything that we do. We have, even right from the burial of Raila, you would go to social media and you hear people speak a lot of weird things. Just because you do not understand the Luo culture, it does not mean that that is primitive or your culture is now superior than the Luo culture. You need to take time to understand. Ask questions. Why are they doing this? Why are they taking bulls? Why are they? Don't start, describing it now from what your grandmother told you in 1960 about that community. You know, so that's where we are stuck as many Kenyans. We need to explore all the borders of this country. We are a diverse people. Unlike many other nations, which sometimes have just a common community, they have one accent. Kenya is the only country you get out of Kenya and you go with your Gikuyu accent, the other one goes with his Kalenjin accent, the other one goes with his Lui accent. There is no Kenyan accent. So if we understood even from that point of view that we are all Kenyans, and every part of this country is there for you. Go to Mandera, learn their culture, see what they are doing, appreciate them. Do not judge because you have never stepped beyond the borders of Limuru. And now you don't know what the other people from their side do. You've never been to Kisii to appreciate the richness of their culture and the values they bring on board. And then overall, let's also, from the lessons we draw from Raila's politics, Raila worked with people from every community. There were Maasais in his office, in his campaigns. There were, people from Turkana, people from Mandera, wherever. He lived with them and worked with them because he learned to judge people based on the content of their ability, character and personality, and not where they come from. But more importantly, to learn from Raila's legacy is that every time Raila participated in an election and he was not happy, he ran to the judiciary. He was teaching us a very proper lesson that conflicts must be resolved where best they can be resolved. There are many nations we have seen after elections, people start just slaughtering each other because they do not believe in their own judiciary. But Raila inspired that faith in our judicial systems. It may have its weaknesses, as it were, but he said, for us to strengthen it, let us keep bringing to them our problems. And from that jurisprudence that is raised, then we strengthen our judiciary, and in the fullness of time, we have a judiciary that can be emulated elsewhere. And you have seen, after the election of, after the many presidential petitions Raila has brought to the judiciary, you have seen even other countries have tried to do the same. They have tried to move to courts and have results of their elections adjudicated by judicial officers. Raila knew that we were going to a place where maybe we would have very strong leaders who cannot cede back so easily, but the judiciary will be our only salvation. So he strongly inspired us to have faith in the judiciary. So and then I think that is what I would actually, even as we go towards the election of 2027, if there be any person that is not happy with the outcome, let us not turn against our neighbors, but let's go to the judiciary. Let's take there our facts. We can even take there with 100 lorries. The judiciary, always they are faithful. They have time. They sit through all those hours. They come through the heaps and heaps of papers that we bring to them, and eventually they read as a judgment.
And we saw it especially in 2017.
Yes. Finally, I think to the younger generation, we had a moment in this country that almost threw us to the brink of collapse as a country, the Gen Z demonstrations. The young people think that they were pushing for a change, which is okay in every community. There has to be a change and people have to speak. But what you learn from Raila is that he knew when to stop. And so even our young people, as we push for change, we are much younger, and we need to collaborate even with the older people. You see Raila in his politics, he collaborated with these older people in as much as he had divergent opinion but he still collaborated with them for a better Kenya, because each one of us is part of this fabric that is called Kenya. We cannot exclude the old people and say they don't know what they are saying, they cannot tell us anything. They have a lot of wisdom to give us. And we need to talk to the old people and just tell them what is it we can do. Let us stand out and let us be seen for what we can do, so that the old people also have faith in the younger generation and say, maybe if we push this young man for leadership, he can help the community. But we cannot push them away and still want to function in the society. So for the young people, there's there's something that Raila put a lot of value and premium onto, and that was the statehood. The fact that, and Raila said in his own words, you'd rather have a government that you don't like than have none at all. Today, the Gen Zs in Madagascar went for protests and their president was kicked out, and now the military has taken over. Michel, the military commander, has promised to be in the seat for 2 years and then call for fresh elections. We will see if that 2 years ends and an election is called. Today, Madagascar has taken a trajectory that will take so many years to bring back the country to where it was. So for our young people, we have divergent opinions. We have knowledge and wisdom that we have gained over the years. We have ultra-modern skills that we have, but we need to grow under a system. And then we need to learn from the ones who have gone before us. We need to look back at history and, more importantly, hold on this thing called the state. Let's have a live state so that all of us can dwell under an atmosphere where even our views will thrive.
And indeed, Millie, before even Raila Amolo Odinga departed and was taken by God at the end of the day, he was calling for a conclave, he was calling for a dialogue. Let's form that bridge between the old and the newer generation. But in terms of ensuring that we do not cascade to where the country that Trust Alenga has talked about in terms of Madagascar and other countries that we've witnessed all over the world, what should the leaders of today do to ensure that the concerns of the youth are heard? Because the youth are making the argument, we have been told over the years, our time is coming, our time is coming. When is our time now?
I think that it would be important for the youth to realize that talking there can never be something as we've talked too much. It's never enough, and it can never be too much. There's always, and there should always be more room for dialogue. And I say this because there are always different nuances. You know, some of these political issues, there are different nuances. We are talking about the ODM today, earlier. The situation or the circumstances dictating this morning may be very different circumstances in a week's time. So it's always important to give that room to see what has shifted, what has changed, and how best to adjust, so that you still work within the parameters or the realities of the day. Because some of this may have been overlooked, may have been ignored, or may have been occasioned by an act of God. So it is important to keep talking and to keep giving room. And we can't belabor the fact that all these things that must be done within a state. If it is not done within the confines of governance, then what is the point? What is the point of losing all this, or losing all the gains that we have made, including the freedoms of expression, association, multipartism, that we have gained this far, all in the fit of an anger because of one other thing that we want today that we may be able to gain and gain more of tomorrow. So you can only urge patience and remind them, because fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, for most of the young people now, they found this cake already baked. They found these things in place. They did not see the journey that it took and the give and take that was there before we reached where we are today. They did not see Raila the firebrand have to step in and go and shake hands with the man who caused him permanent injury for the sake of, not just his own sake, but for the sake of bringing an issue to the national agenda. And that's why for me the favorite name for him remains Tinga. And go in there and be able to bring change within this humongous monster called KANU that nobody thought anyone could infiltrate. So they did not see that. They didn't have that benefit of seeing that. And it would be important for them to know that it took steps, it took give and take, it took sacrifices for us to reach here. Yes, we are here now. We do not want to stay here. We want to move ahead. And in order for us to continue with that journey of progression, there must continue to be gives and takes. Again, you cannot do these things without a leader. I mean, we have 10 fingers, but each finger has its role. And you can't decide that you're going to use your little pinky finger to support your weight when we all know that it is the thumb that can do that role. So it is important to move away from this conversation of being leaderless, because at the end of the day, you must have some few people who you'll be able to say that these ones speak for us, and you give them that room to speak for you. I'm saying this because we have seen since 2024 that anyone who has been identified as a potential leader of the young people is immediately ostracized by the young people, and they say he's not our leader, we remain leaderless. How do we talk to you? Even if you wanted to come and talk to members of a profession, whether it be lawyers, whether it be accountants, whether it be doctors, they must give you some people who you'll talk to. You can't talk to all the teachers in Kenya. They must give you some teachers that they will listen to, who will come and tell you what the issue of the teachers are. So I hope that they can begin to embrace that and learn from the life of Tinga, that he gave room for that to happen in order for him to lead us and bring us to where he has left us. And so for them, they must pick up from there. And unless there's this new way that they will suddenly carve of moving the agenda forward, whereas give and take and having leadership is what we have seen right from, for those who are Christians, right from the days of Jesus. Because there were all these Christians, but we had to have disciples. There were all these people who were speaking, but we had to have, even amongst the disciples, there was the one who was loved, there was the one who was the leader, you know? So it's important for us to realize that that's the structure that has been happening for now. And unless a new one is emergent that they will teach us, they would adopt that, because some of us are still here who know only that structure.
And I trust that when Odinga was explaining why he had sorted to work with the current administration, that is the Kenya Kwanza, that born what was called now the broad-based government, he clearly stated that to overthrow a government is through the ballot box. But since IBC opened up the voter registration, we have seen the dwindling numbers, especially from the youth, in terms of voter registration. And this is something that Odinga himself even advocated back in 2022 when he was saying kijana fire, vijana fire, go take your voter's card and ensure at the end of the day you vote for the administration that you want. But we've seen a number of them are not taking up this particular opportunity.
I think that is not even the most grave situation. The more serious one is what Wakili raised earlier on. In the last election, we had about 8 million people who did not vote.
Yes.
They did not cast a ballot. So then now we have continuous voter registration that has been opened, and the numbers are so tiny. The people who are turning up daily to vote are very few. So two things to ponder. Is it the structure of IEBC in terms of how they conduct the continuous voter registration that is barring many people from registering? Because the conversations I've had is of people who live in different places and they would like to register as voters for another place. Like let's say someone from Vihiga constituency, where I will be vying for MP in 2027, and then he's in Nairobi, but he wants to register as a voter and vote for me in Vihiga. They don't know how to go about it. So I think there could be some voter education around it. Is it any IEBC office that you can walk to in the country that will help you to register and choose a polling station of your choice, or must you go to location Nyuma ya ID? So those are the things that they need to figure out. And then number two, now also it's the willingness of the younger generation to participate in electoral politics.
Yeah.
So I think when I was growing up, we used to listen a lot to the radio because we wanted to know what is happening in the country. But today, we have a generation that you ask them if something was shown on TV and they tell you like, I no longer watch TV. So what do you watch? They are always on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, which are very good platforms. But in those platforms, you get piecemeal of news. You know, you don't get the whole story. That's what Wakili was trying to raise earlier, that you go on social media and you see somebody saying this is bad, and then you're like, it's really bad because so and so said, and I am following them on social media. So I think for the younger generation, let's understand that there's only one way you can make your change. If you do not like the government of the day, there's only one way you can register and go and vote it out. If you support it, there's only one way you can go and register and vote for that government. If there is a politician that you want or you do not want, the only way you can make a decision about them is through the ballot. So there is power in the ballot, and there is power in meaningful decision making. So once you have gotten that voter's card, then now start thinking, what kind of a leader do I want to represent me?
And as we're entering the final leg of our conversation, so what should be the key takeaways, given that at the end of the day we have buried one great man called Raila Amolo Odinga? We have leaders who are set to even, let's not even go far, to 2027, upcoming by-elections that are in November. What leaders should we be looking out for in terms of, we're not saying they will take over the mantle of or the stature that Odinga was, but in terms of Kenyans, what should they be looking out for in our leaders in the coming even by-election and even the general election?
I think we have an opportunity finally to stop voting in people, because Kenyans, are very prayerful. And after being very prayerful, they are also very, I don't know the right word to use for it, but you'd say maybe empathetic. So once they have eaten your money, so to speak, they'll say, anyway, tumekula pesa yake mingi, give him one term or give her one term, so that they can recuperate the finances that they've used, even though they are not impressed by the person's ability to lead them. I'm hoping that this is the time that we are going to go back to what happened the first time when former President Uhuru Kenyatta tried to come in, and the campaign slogan was Kula kwa Uhuru, but Kura elsewhere, and people actually did that. So that they will look at people like issues. I'm glad that we can see and hear that we already have potential people who are going to come and present themselves in 2027, who speak to issues, who understand issues and can unpack them. I'm hoping that we will have the patience to listen to them and give them that opportunity, and not make it impossible for them by demanding that they must give us 3 sets of lessons and unga and etc. before we are going to go out and listen to them. If we can use this as the turning point for that, as Kenyans, I'm speaking to myself and to the people, if we can use this as that opportunity to now begin to look at substance going forward, we will have done this country great. And we will be able to move that agenda forward. Because if we show people that we are listening to issues, they will be forced to talk issues. Yes.
And perhaps given that now Alenga has some experience, he will be vying for that particular seat. Are we seeing that culture coming to an end? Because you're dealing with a very educated generation, courtesy of the education systems that were placed before by the previous regime, including the former president, that is Mwai Kibaki. So are we seeing that culture is going to end? We cannot expect your Alenga to stand before us without giving us, not giving us something at the end of the day.
they tell you unatuachaje.
Yes.
I think that behavior of the voters
Yes.
can only be stopped by ourselves. First of all, the leaders must present themselves with issues, because it's only when you don't have issues that you bring money first. But if you have issues, then you go with the message, you know. The voters also must demand a higher level of credibility from the people that present themselves for elections. And this can be achieved even through our communities and through even collaborations with the universities. Nowadays we have universities almost in every county, or sometimes even in the smaller units, in the districts and all that. So these universities can partner with local organizations and promote debates where maybe, let's say, for instance, Kaimosi University in Vihiga County can invite all the people that want to contest for governor in Vihiga, Senate, MP, let them talk to the people, let them be asked questions, let them tell us what they are going to do on health. What plan do they have for education? What plan do they have for the development of the area? What are they going to do about water and sanitation? You know, so that they tell us these things before we make a decision on who among the three or who among the six actually has an agenda. Because we do not listen to we do not preempt what these people have, that is why we end up with square pegs in round holes when now we go for the election. So if these institutions can partner with the local organizations to improve the level of debate, remember societies like the Greek society was highly improved in terms of its economy, its politics, its philosophy and education through debate. In the olden Greek society, people would be called to the auditorium to speak about finance, to speak about saving, to speak about leadership, to speak about politics, to speak about governance. And those kind of public debates are the ones that raised the Platos of the day, the Aristotles, and all the other panoply of leaders who rose through that Greek system of deeply listening to people to know what content do they have. So today, you do not just present yourself because I was working, I don't know where, I was a doctor for 20 years, I was an engineer, I was what, now I want to be a governor. Let's first of all unpack these people, you know, see what exactly they have. Before they come to embarrass us in Nairobi, we'll have told them deep down in Vihiga, no, you don't deserve it.
Okay. Let me accord you now at least 1 minute each to say your final remarks. Let me start with you, Millie.
We must, as the 7 days of mourning come to an end, thank Amolo Odinga for living true to the course that God had given him on this earth, for trying his level best. And may his soul rest in peace. And may that spirit that he had of unity, of discussion, and of interest of the people being the central issue in our agenda, in politics and in public life, may it live on for years and years to come.
Indeed. Alenga?
Me too, in the spirit of mourning the late Raila Odinga, I want to be very brief. There's a French poet, Bihago Diop, who wrote a poem that says, he said in French, les morts ne sont pas morts, les morts ne sont pas qui partis. Like, the dead are not dead. Those who have died amongst us have not departed from us. So his memory lives within us.
Thank you so much. Of course, for those people who don't understand French, at least he explained to us its meaning. Thank you so much. That is Alenga Trostat, a policy advisor, Millie Luanga, lawyer and governance expert. Thank you for making time for us for the better part of this morning. That concludes our program this morning, but we are keeping a very close eye at State House Nairobi, given that President William Ruto any moment from now will be coming your way live there, given that he is currently held up in a a meeting with the Senegal president for a state visit, that is Bassirou Diomaye. And early in the morning, the president had the opportunity to host the Prime Minister of Mozambique, that is Maria Ben-Vida Levy, at State House Nairobi. Also, other key events that are happening across the country, including the Correctional Service Week 2025 that has started with the chief guest, that is CS Defense Soipan Tuya, gracing the event. And also here closer to where the broadcasting house is, Parliament especially will be vetting. The committee, the Labour Committee, will be vetting that is Engineer Michael Thioya Kingi, a nominee for the appointment as a member of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC. Don't go too far. Kurunzi Mashinani will be up next with all those details as and when we get them. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Lensa Odingo. Good morning for now.